Valentine's Day. It's so cute and romantic, and you can go on a fun date and it'll be so awesome, except for the fact that you're single. So, yeah. Hey girls, welcome back to Beautiful Daughters 99. If you're new here, my name is Maya, and this is my faith-based podcast series for the beautiful daughters and young women of God who are struggling in faith and body image. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and let's get into today's video topic. It gets a little bit annoying, when people are posting all their get ready with me's and all the aesthetic stuff before Valentine's Day. And it gets annoying when you see all of the lovely, godly couples on YouTube that are sharing about how they have such a great Christ-centered relationship. And then you're sitting over here and you're just like, wow, I am so single. I feel that because guess what? I'm single too. So yeah. And it continues to get annoying because then people do the stupid things where they're like, well, let's have galentines, get together with your girlfriends, have some fun. Or they have palentines where, just have a whole get together of all of your friends. But the truth of the matter is, even when you do that, you're still single. It seems like when you really, really don't want to be single, and when you're praying to not be single, that God really isn't hearing you. And it also just becomes problematic when there's all these voices on the internet and those just aren't going away either. And when there are Christian voices on the internet and they are saying the wrong things about your being single. Probably the most overused verse in this time, or just generally with the whole waiting season thing, is Psalm 37:4, which I'll read it for you here. It says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." People use that a lot in different podcasts or just talking to their friends. Everybody who's single, just talking about well, where's my man, God? And that sounded weird. It sounded that sounded weird, but I'm just saying you're asking why don't I have a man? You're asking that to God. That's what I mean. That sounded weird, but that's what I mean by that. And anyway, people use that verse all the time and they're like, well, if you pray a lot and are faithful to God and go to church or whatever, and you want a boyfriend, you want a future husband, then that will be granted to you. Your desire, the desire of your heart will be granted to you if you're faithful to God, right? Or just, various things about, Christianity, if you do this or if you do that, then, that makes yourself, being delighted in the Lord. And so then, because it says, delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart, clearly that means that if you do all those things, then you will get your future husband. But it actually doesn't mean that. This verse means delighting yourself in the Lord means to have your heart's desire molded to God's desire for your heart. So, God could want you to get married, and there's probably a high chance that he does. I don't really know your situation, but just because, you love God, that doesn't mean that you're going to get a boyfriend because you want a boyfriend. That doesn't mean you're going to get married to that person someday because you want to get married. It means that when you delight yourself in the Lord, when you mold your heart's desires to the Lord's desire for your heart, then that will be granted to you because you have submitted yourself to the will of God, and thus the will of God can be fulfilled. Your wishing and your prayers, especially in this matter, should be aligned with what God wants for your life. I'm just gonna say it. Sometimes what God wants for your life is not always what you want for your life. And you have to change your mindset, change your heart set to be in a space that is reflecting what God wants you to do in your life and who God wants you to be with in your life. I think it's true of everything that you do in your life. You should always, in everything, be doing what you believe is God's will for your life. And that's just, that's what you should be doing in every aspect. But especially in the more serious aspects of life, like romance, you should be doing what God wants you to do, and you should be placing your trust of your life and the direction of where your life will go in God's hands. Sometimes people will say that, romance isn't that serious, or that dating in of itself isn't that serious. But in all reality, it really is. And so you should be careful how you go into that, and be careful when you are listening to all of the voices of people that are like, well, God will just give you this and God will give you that, which will make you think, well, since I'm dating someone, then that means that that's what God wants for me. But that really might not actually be true. And so it's just good to be cautious around that area of life, and to really try and fully devote yourself to whatever the Lord wants for you, even if that may or may not contradict what you have hoped for your life. On another train of thought of the subject of the seriousness of romance, and I want you to pay very close attention to this, you shouldn't settle. I don't care if you have to wait till you're 50 years old before you get married, or longer or shorter amount of time. You should not settle, because it is so serious, and you don't want to end up with someone that a couple years later you're like, wow, I really don't want to be with this person anymore. And first of all, anyway, if you're going to make the whole commitment of marriage to someone, then it seems pretty obvious to me that beforehand you should already be aware of whatever you can be aware of, that you're like, well, okay, I'll deal with all these things, and I love this person, and this person I believe is for me, so I'm going to marry them. But then also, you, even if there are things that are different after you're married, you made that commitment, so unless it's something like abuse or cheating or anything like that, unless it is one of those things such as serious that the other person's commitment is being broken, you are committed to that person, and you are committed to that person till death do you part. You are committed to that person for as long as a time that you have with that person. So just really you should not settle. And maybe you already as a teenager have found a really great person, and when you're in your early 20s, you're gonna get married and you're gonna have a beautiful life surrounded with Christ and rooted on the foundation of Christ. But you could also be really rushing into things, and that's not a good idea. It's not something that I think you should be anxious about, but I do think that it is something that is still quite serious. And so, you should know what you want in a person. You should know what type of person, would be good for you. You should know, what you're looking for. And above all else, when thinking about romance, you should be looking for a person that loves God above all else. And you should be looking for someone that has similar, family and ethical and moral and life values to you. You should be looking for someone that you will abound in your faith with, someone that you will grow in your faith with. Pretty much, you should marry someone that will become your best friend. You may have already found that person, and that's cool, and that's great, and that's pretty lucky of you, honestly. You may still be looking for that person, and honestly, same here. But no matter what or how long it takes, you should continually be submitting to God's will for your life. And I do believe that if it is in God's will for you to be married one day, that if you are doing that with God's will for your life, that you are molding the desire of your heart to the desire that God has for your heart, that your person will show up sooner or later. And while you are in a time of singleness, a waiting season, you should always continually be growing in your faith. You should be thinking about, like, what do you really want in your future husband? Like, what sort of person do you really, like, actually want to spend the rest of your life with? Because it is such a serious thing, and you should not be settling for someone that you both don't like each other anymore in a few years. You should not be settling for someone that's really not a good match for you at all, but, well, I felt pressured to get married, so, like, you should not be settling for anybody. And just to be clear, like, settling for somebody, like, that person could be a good person, but they could be a person that just really, like, does not fit with or align with, like, your life and how God is leading you. And that person also could legitimately be a bad person that you probably shouldn't end up with. But either way, like, you should not be settling for anyone that does not, like, fit with the life that God has crafted for the both of you. You should be focusing on looking for someone who, like, really, 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 like, I'm not sure if there is a perfect person for someone, but you should be looking for someone who really, 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 really almost perfectly, like, just naturally fits into your life and is like, wow, like, it's like I've known this person, like, for so long. And maybe all of that doesn't happen so magically or romantically or whatever. I would not know, because I have never been on a single date in my life, much less had a boyfriend. So, like, I have no idea. But, like, you should really have intentionality when you are thinking about romance. You should have intentionality when you look at the dating scene. You should have intentionality in how you go about the life that God has given you. We've come to the end of my video today. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Why don't you go down into the comment section and comment single? Because that's really funny, honestly. So just go ahead and comment single if you are single. If you're not single, then I don't know, you might decide to be really funny to the rest of us in the comment section who are single. But that's okay too, and we'll have some fun with it. My video next week will continue the romance series, and my video the week after that will continue the romance series. The video next week is another one on marriage, and the video the week after that is a little bit different than the other three, but they're all important, and you should go and watch the last one I did on biblical marriage if you have not yet, because I think that it would be a good one for you to watch. You can always email me at beautifuldaughters99@gmail.com if you have any questions or concerns or things that you just have a heavy heart on and want to talk about, or anything else like that. And you can also reach me by direct messages on my Instagram at beautifuldaughters99, and you can check out the posts that I have there. God bless you as you go into the weekend, and goodbye.